Did you wake up, Dad, because Dad was playing with lizards? Did you wake up because Dad was playing with lizards?
Hey guys, welcome back to another video here, and in this video we're going to get really hooked in and clean up this herp room. So that's right guys, we are going to get in and clean up this herp room. I've let it kind of go way too far. I've just started this new job and it is taking a little bit of a toll on me physically to kind of get used to it. And I really need to get into this herp room and give it a good once over. Back to work tomorrow, so I really need to make sure that I get it done today. And yeah, I basically just wanted to bring you guys along for the ride, show you a few little tips and tricks that maybe that you don't already know, maybe you do. Maybe you could share some tips and tricks with me. But yeah, basically just kind of my kind of routine as far as what I do on my Sunday before I start my working week, because I don't really have a lot of time during the working week to actually physically get too stuck in, apart from just a little bit of feeding and topping up water bowls and such. So as I said, I have let it go a little bit too far for my liking. You can see there's a few paper towels around in places from where I've done some kind of like mince feeding or egg feeding. And you can see that, you know, we've got sand in water bowls. There's like poop on termite mounds. There's like all sorts of things happening around the place. The hopping mice need a major clean out too, just because they eat so many seeds. So they like to make a lot of mess on a weekly basis. So yeah, we're basically just going to go in tank by tank or rack by rack, give a good clean, get into some nitty gritty stuff. Stuff like all this Oedura poop up here. I want to clean this all up so it actually looks nice and fresh, because I'm sick of looking at it basically. And yeah, it is something that I try to do on a weekly basis or thereabouts. Sometimes I might let things go a little bit too far, which, as I said, doing this new job, it's probably been a case of that. But yeah, basically I want to get hooked in, clean up some rocks, clean up some backgrounds, do all sorts of bits and pieces, and basically just freshen all these guys up. And then yeah, thought I'd bring you guys along for the ride. I probably might even hit doing some glass. I hate doing glass, but you know, I'm starting to leave fingerprints in places that I shouldn't want to, so yeah, we'll probably get hooked into a little bit of that as well by the looks of it. So one of the first things that I like to do with my Sunday routine is to actually feed the woodies and make sure that they've got a big chunk of carrot and a bunch of dried dog food. So these are the kind of couple of feed out colonies that I got, so there's not a hell of a lot actually happening in these two. But as you can see over in these two colonies over here, these are the ones that I'm kind of letting rejuvenate themselves and get a bunch of numbers up. And I really hate having these guys down on the ground like this just for too long, because they do smell. They're not crash hot. And obviously the dust and everything does aggravate me a little bit, so I'm going to get these guys packed away back up top on that rack where they belong. And then yeah, we'll get into some other major cleaning and stuff that I want to do here. So first things first, I'm going to get hooked into these guys. These guys are probably one of the ones that I clean most frequently, just because of the sheer mess that they make using all that seed and such. They like to eat a lot of bird seed. So with that being said, you know, they do make a lot of mess. And as you can see, they're like little bulldozers, so they kind of shift sand all around the place. And the one thing that I have found with these guys that works really well is I was trying to sift their sand with a Reptile sand sieve like this, which quite often I'll use this on bigger animals that essentially do bigger poop. But these guys, they do such fine little poops that they just went straight through the sand sieve, so it wasn't doing me any favours whatsoever. So now I use religiously a fishnet. It's really nothing special. You can get these for $5-6 from most, you know, fish or aquarium shops. This being said, this allows the sand to go straight through it really easily. I just kind of have to kind of give it a bit of a wiggle, a bit like an old gold miner, and you know, get all the little poops and things out of there. And it also helps pick up seeds and such like that. But yeah, you could use that for any sort of animal that's basically doing little tiny poops, so like little tiny geckos if you're just using sand, and you could do that, of course, if you're using other things in your substrate, like a mulch, for example. Not going to be any good for you. That's a bit more of like a, you know, you're going to go through by hand and actually pick that sort of gear out. So anyway, I'm going to chuck the time lapse on, give these guys a sift, and let's get these guys nice and clean. And it looks like I need to top up their water bottle as well, so we'll get it stuck in and get these guys done first. There we have it. That was a quick sift and clean on these guys. Probably took me about 15-20 minutes or thereabouts. I still have to come back and do the glass, but these guys are going to be pretty busy for the next hour or so rearranging the sand because they absolutely hate it when I do it. So at least it looks a lot tidier than what it was. And I've given them some fresh rodent blocks as well as a carrot and some sweet potato, which they'll no doubt get into in a little while. And they've also got some fresh water up there as well. But yeah, it looks like the numbers have boomed again with these guys as well. I think there's about 14, 15 again. So these guys basically fluctuate all the time, just depends on food and water and all the rest of it. And yeah, there's a bunch of kind of young weanlings and stuff like that around at the moment, which is cool to see, but they're all doing pretty good. They're just kind of running on their own dime. Yeah, lots of activity once you sift this sand and get them a little bit agitated. They absolutely hate having their house rearranged. They love making it their own. So they'll be little bulldozers for the next hour or so, or probably well into the night, to be honest. You can see them kicking up the sand, making sand dunes absolutely everywhere. Cool little critters nonetheless. But yeah, it'll be funny to see what they do over the next hour or so. Oh look, there's a little young one walking around over there. But yeah, good little animals. Absolutely love these guys. One of my favourites. So I think something that I'm going to do next is basically get a lot of these water bowls out of these enclosures. I'm going to give them a little bit of a scrape down today, give them a little bit of a scrub. I'll probably just be using water and a toothbrush for that because that's pretty much all I like using. I don't really like going over the top with chemicals or anything. You can see there's a couple that have ended up dry. That's okay. I do generally do water every few days here or thereabouts. But yeah, that'll be the next thing. I'll collect a bunch of these up and then we'll go and clean them in the laundry sink, I think. Okay, so before we get into the water bowls, I'm actually going to do that last. I think I've just collected them all up from the room. But what I'm going to do is basically work from the top down as far as these enclosures go. So if there is any sort of like feces or anything on a log or a branch or a termite mound like that, I'm basically going to either pick it off if I can or essentially give it a little bit of a watering and give it a little bit of a scrub with a hard wearing scrubbing brush. Just to loosen it up. So same goes for like over in this Kimberley rock monitor enclosure, for example, where there's like little bits of urates and things like that that she's left there. We're going to get into that and basically work it down. So if there is anything that's kind of like hard and chunky, it can fall down the bottom and I can collect it in my sand sieve or pick it out by hand. So that's going to be the next point of call. It's essentially working around the room, getting rid of any sort of like these larger chunks like this. And yeah, that goes all over the place as well. So if there's like that stuff on the rocks over there, I'm going to get into that too. If there's like little nuggets or anything like that hanging on any of these branches, or even you can see like little tiny bits up on the glass like that, that's what I'm going to get into. So bit of a long process. It's going to take me a little while. Oh good. How does this depressor look? I love that lizard. Absolutely love that lizard. Anyway, that's what we're going to get into next. We're going to clean all that down and then basically work it all down the bottom, and then we're going to clean up the sand beds. So this is the kind of hard wearing brush that I'm referring to, something that's got super dense bristles, like they're pretty firm. That's what I tend to get into a lot of the kind of tile pointing backgrounds and things with. Occasionally I'll give this a good clean and use it on water bowls if I need to. Just depends on how far I've let the water bowls go, but usually I find an old toothbrush is okay for that. But this is just essentially like a cheap brush from Bunnings. I think they're only a couple of bucks. But this is what I tend to get into with like a lot of the backgrounds, logs, that sort of gear. So I'm going to start basically from this little tiny Gillen's tank down here and work my way around the room and just give it a good spruce up. So you wouldn't believe it, but as I was cleaning this Gillen's enclosure out, I just pulled apart this little Exoterra termite mound that I've got in here, and a female had somehow managed to get inside of this termite mound and lay a clutch of eggs, including this other egg here that looks actually half decent and seems to still have veins and stuff in it. So I'm going to pop this into the incubator now, which I've luckily only just recently turned back on, and see if I can get a little Gillen's monitor out. And while I'm here, I might actually check the nest box that's in the back there to see if they've actually used that. But I thought that was interesting that they used little monitor just caught a woody. I thought that was interesting that she's decided to use that instead. That's really bizarre. So I don't want to oversaturate the eggs, so I've just got a little tiny bit of water in the bottom of that tray, just because it is a little bit dehydrated. I don't want to go the other way and essentially cause it to go, too wet too quick. So I'm just going to pop that into that little tray there. I'll go and pop that into the incubator, hey, and yeah, hopefully another few months or thereabouts, I'm assuming, we're going to have another little Gillen's monitor. I'm definitely not going to hold my breath though, just because, obviously the circumstances of finding that in a really weird spot. And yeah, we'll walk it down the hall and chuck it in the incubator. So what I just did then, if you did miss it, is I've actually moved the termite mound from this side over to that side. And the reason being is that little termite mound was essentially over here, and that's where you got your heat coming down to there. So my thought is maybe that nest box wasn't actually getting warm enough. So hopefully by putting that nest box on this side rather than that side, it'll just get enough residual heat to kind of keep a bit more of a steady temperature, and then maybe she'll be a little bit happier for that. So yeah, hopefully we'll get a better clutch a little bit later in the year. That might be a little bit better, give or take. It's kind of hard to get a solid reading of what inside the box is with this thing, but it's, depending where you're pointing it, kind of between 27 to 30, whereas the other end of the enclosure down there, a bit more like your lower 20s. But yeah, these guys all seem to be enjoying basking on the termite mound up here, so it might be a bit of a hit. It's nearly impossible to see, but I've got my little laundry sink here. We very rarely put chemicals down this sink anyway. I pretty much use it for all the animals. So I'm actually just going to take these bowls and quickly give them a little scrub out with a toothbrush. Just an old toothbrush that I've got kicking around. Reasonably firm bristles on it still. So anyway, I'm going to crack on, get all these nice and cleaned up, and yeah, basically just clean all the kind of gunky slime and stuff like that you can see in the bottom of them, and give them a bit of a wipe out, get any sort of algae and stuff like that out of them, and let them dry in here while I go and clean all the rest of the stuff. So I was just cleaning that tank up there, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to check that nest box that's behind there, you know, the ones that I've just recently made with the termite mounds. Check that out. Looks like we've got some eggs in there, hopefully some good ones. Looks like they're nicely covered in, which is good. Means that the girls, or a girl at least, likes the little nest box. So why don't we go ahead, I'm going to dig these out and put these into the incubator as well. Well, it's always good news when you're getting eggs. It means you're doing something right, or at least giving them what they want to feel reasonably comfortable. Alright, so I'm going to just basically chip away at this, probably take handfuls to start, and then I'll get my little spoon in here. I'm going to get the spoon in here, and then hopefully scoop them out nice and easily, and then get them into a little tub so we can actually stick them inside the incubator. And that'll be pretty cool to get a couple of clutches of, or at least a few Gillen's eggs away into the incubator and hopefully set them up for success again. Looks like we're definitely getting closer to these eggs right there. Be a little bit gentle around these things. That looks like a good egg. Of course I'll have to candle these just to see if they are actually viable. This is just some eggs from another pair that haven't bred yet. So this is exciting. I'm starting to kind of get generations through which are breeding now. I might actually just put a tiny little dot, because I don't know when these were laid, so I don't want to really rotate them any further around than what they are, if possible. I don't know how many are in here, at least 3 by the looks of it, which is exciting. Any Gillen's are good Gillen's in my book, so definitely no complaints from me. I might actually part with some this year if they're any good. So I'll see if I can get my hand in here. Oh, that's a nice plump egg. That feels good. Of course I won't know until I candle it, but there you go. That's a decent sized Gillen's egg. We'll get these other ones out now and I'll check them out in a bit, hey? I might just put them across into the sandbox that I've got next to us, just so I can candle them before putting them in the little incubation tub. We'll see how they look. Hopefully they're good. Number 2. Oh man, these are some pretty good sized Gillen's eggs. I wonder how far these are along. So these nest boxes have been in here for at least a month or so now. What are we in? Almost in November, so it's pretty exciting times ahead that these guys are laying some eggs. Hopefully we can get some double clutching happening if the girls are up for it. Of course that is on their terms. I'm going to have a bit more of a dig around, see if there's any more, but it could just be a little clutch of 3, which is a-okay in my books. As I said, any Gillen's is good Gillen's. Well, there is a lot of strong veining in these little eggs, so they should, all going to plan, go the distance. I'll tell you what, if I end up with a fair few of these little eggs this year, which I kind of am hoping, I actually might experiment about leaving these nest boxes inside of the enclosures, maybe just seal them up, just to try to see if I can actually get some hatched out inside of their enclosures. Again, replicate that. There we go. More eggs for the incubator. Oh, that's wicked. I'm super excited about that. Love me some Gillen's, especially baby Gillen's. They're so bloody cute. So I'm going to gingerly try to get all this sand as best as I can back into this nest box so I don't have to vacuum it up. And I might just put a little bit more water inside of this box just to try to get it a little bit more humid again, because it would be alright, but I might just put a little bit more moisture in it and press it down. We'll get it back into the enclosure, and hopefully these girls will have another crack. I believe there's actually two females in that enclosure, so hard to actually say which one it is. They are both sisters, so genetically they should in theory be the same, but cool nonetheless. Alright, don't want to overdo it, I can always add back to this, so that'll get us started. We'll go from there. We'll put this nest box back in, and it's kind of making me think now that maybe I might check the blackhead nest box while I'm going. just because if we're getting eggs, there's a chance that she might have actually gone as well, which would be bloody exciting because I haven't bred blackheads in a couple of years now. But yeah, we'll see how we go. Okay, so here we go. We've got the black-headed monitor nest box. I'm actually being watched by the male right now. But as you'll see, if I lift this up, there's some little toe marks and stuff through here which indicate that somebody's been dragging themselves around. I don't know if they've been digging or not. There might be a few little test burrows by the looks of it. I very rarely see this girl, so what I want to do is I actually want to dig this out and give it a bit of a look. Considering all the other monitors are starting to go, there's a chance that this female would be too. She is at a size where she's a little bit small, but she could very well be reproductive. So I want to have a look at this, because the last thing I want is little black-headed monitors running around in that box and then potentially getting nailed by Dad. And I'd rather hatch them out and have some little blackheads. So I'm going to fast forward, time-lapse this. I'm going to dig this out and see if we can find some eggs. We may find some eggs, we may not. Who knows? But I'd rather check it and know for myself. Okay, so no eggs, not a bad thing. What I am very happy about though is the consistency of the sand that's in here. It's very much like sandcastle kind of consistency. You can hold the shape really well without being sopping wet. So yeah, super happy about that. So I'll chuck this back in the enclosure and keep on cleaning. So as I was saying earlier, sometimes the sand sieve can be really helpful with some of the bigger animals that defecate little bit bigger nuggets, so to speak. So if you get into these enclosures, quite often I'll be able to move a few things around. And gillons, much like the depressor and stuff like that, tend to leave kind of scat piles around the bases of trees, which is like what you see there, essentially. That's a little bit of bark as well as gillons poop. So I like to just come in, be able to do that, grab the majority of it, maybe a bit of sand at the same time just to get rid of it. Now, I'm not like overly thorough where I'll get 100% of it out. They do like to have a little bit of their own smell in there, I reckon. But we like it to be cleaner, so that's what we tend to do. It's just a bit of a sift. Oh, dead wood roach as well, so we'll get that out. All in all, pretty good. A little bit more urate there. And I'll just go around the enclosure and do that again at the other side. So you can see it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than what it was. And that's all I'm going for, is good. You know, nobody's out there sifting the stuff in the wild, so they're getting a little bit more than what they would. You know, obviously they're confined to a box, so you've got to kind of keep on top of it a bit, but you know, I try not to go overboard. Pop that in there, pop that in there. I'll move over to the other side and just give it a bit of a freshen up. Well, that is now all of the poop and stuff cleaned out of these enclosures, and you can see that they are looking a lot fresher. I've scrubbed down that Oedura rock. They are absolute poop machines, and I've kind of gone through a few of the enclosures and given them a nice kind of freshen up on the soil as such. The little bearded geckos and also the helmeted geckos, I pretty much just have to kind of pick off little poops because they're so tiny they pretty much disintegrate. And as you can see, I'm just going to see if this little cutting of this native plant that I've got growing outside will take inside of Oakley's tank. We'll see if he approves of that. But yeah, it's all coming together pretty good in here. I think the last things are basically putting water bowls in and filling those up. And then I might hit everything with a bit of a once over with a glass clean, just to see if I can kind of make it look half decent in here. I absolutely hate cleaning glass, but yeah, we'll do that. More of these little kind of guys, I'll probably just use like a bit of a diluted vinegar mix on them. And the bigger animals, I'll do the same. On the outside of the bigger animals tanks, I generally go over with kind of like a glass cleaning wipe on the outside. I don't really do it on the inside. I pretty much just stick to the vinegar mix on the inside, or if not, just even plain water, just something to get it off. I try not to use any sort of like harsh chemicals on the glass because it can actually muck things up a little bit. We've got a few gillons hanging out of this log down here. Hey guys. Yeah. So all in all, starting to look pretty good, pretty clean. Pretty much getting there now. As you can see too, if I come down here, you can see the hopping mice have just absolutely pounded everything that's in there. They've already covered up their food bowl full of rodent blocks and stuff like that. So, yep, pretty much water, glass, and I need to do a big vacuum in here once Finny's awake because I've made an absolute mess of the carpet. Hey Billy. Are all done. I'm onto glass, and this is what I've got. I've got white vinegar, cleaning vinegar. It's not got any other chemicals or anything in it. It is just white vinegar. About 1 part white vinegar to, I don't know, maybe about 6 or 7 parts water. So it's diluted. What I do is I spray it onto a piece of paper like this, bit of paper towel, and I'll wipe that through the inside of the glass panels. Now, that's what I do on the inside. A lot of the enclosures, I might just kind of do a bit of a gloss over on the outside. I'm not so worried about that because obviously that's going to be protecting the animals from getting vinegar and stuff in their eyes. But on the inside of the enclosure in particular, I don't want to be spraying away and coating geckos in white vinegar and stuff. White vinegar is pretty inert, so as long as they're not like onto it straight away, it's going to be pretty good. You know, you could use wax and grease remover and things like that, which works really good on the outside of your tanks, but I wouldn't be using that on the inside of your tanks because it's probably a bit harsh. This is what I do. It works for me. You know, if it works for you, awesome. A lot of the time, as I said, I will just do like a plain water wash on the inside of the tanks, but today being a bit more of a thorough clean, I just want to do a very light overview with some white vinegar, and then I might even go on the outside of the tanks with some actual glass cleaning wipes and stuff like that as well, just obviously where the animals can't access those chemicals. Practically done. Just need to vacuum the mess on the floor, and my little assistant's been sleeping on the job.
Hey Finnan, I've cleaned the lizard room. Where was you? Where were you to help me? Where were you to help me? You've been sleeping instead. Have you been sleeping instead? Oh yeah. Don't worry, I'll show you the lizard room now that it's all clean.
Well, there you have it, guys. It's been a hell of a day and I am finally done. I don't do this all the time. This is kind of what I'd refer to as a bit more of my style of deep clean, so to speak. Usually I'm just kind of spot cleaning and doing little bits and pieces here and there, but as far as this goes, I wanted to kind of show you when it is really dirty, the kind of work that it actually takes, and it is a lot. That's probably the better part of at least 5-6 hours for me today to really hook in and clean this one room, and that's not including all the other reptiles and stuff that are of course out in the other room as well. But as you can see, it does pay off. These enclosures do look awesome when they are really sparkling. They're pretty good when they're dirty, but they look even better when they are sparkling, and the animals will do them a lot of justice as well, of course. And it's nice when all the glass is crystal clear. You know, you can see the animals, there's no poo to look at. It's not kind of that kind of heartbreak sort of thing where you go, oh, there's a nugget there. But now it does look pretty good, and the animals are definitely going to appreciate having a nice clean environment, clean water bowls. You know, all in all, it's just looking good. So I hope you did really enjoy this video, guys. I hope you did enjoy having a little bit of an in-depth look as to how I do clean up a few of the animal enclosures. We're pretty much into nighttime now, so there's no critters really to be seen. They're not usually going to be out this time of day. That being said, there are little Gillen's monitors still kind of hanging out just down here, and I'm super excited about getting those Gillen's eggs. That's an absolute bonus. So if you enjoyed the video, guys, don't forget to drop it a like, give it a comment down below as well, share it around if you want to, and please let me know what you'd like to see in other videos coming up. I always take everybody's comments into consideration as far as things that I can do. Not all the time can I actually do videos, especially if it's, you know, species I haven't kept or anything like that. I don't really want to try to even attempt that sort of gear. But guys, thank you for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Check me out on Teespring and Patreon if you do want to support the channel even further. And until next time, take it easy, and I'll catch you then.